get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Hello, Thrive Loud listeners. It's Sophia the intern, and for today's minisode, we'll be going back to a conversation with entrepreneur and CEO Adam Hergenrother. Adam's message speaks to me, maybe because I'm a Libra and love balance, or maybe because I just value the ideas of self-discipline and integrating work and life. So, without further ado, let's hear from Lou and Adam.
Some people can tend to be, they've been defined as extreme personalities, and they can be incredibly hard in working in one particular area. That doesn't sound like you, though. This sounds like you found a way to put your ADDness into not only health and fitness, but balance, right? Yeah. Because that seems to be the thing that you've been working on incredibly. Has that scale ever been so out of kilter? Like, I'm only working out, but I'm not working on my business, or I'm not working on my education, or I'm not working on that. Can you share a little bit about that part of the journey? As you took one direction to work on your physicality, it obviously must have also affected your mindset.
Yeah, of course it did, right? It just gave me your mindset's an asset. And I think your listeners need to understand that when you have the confidence of knowing that you can accomplish anything, even though you may not know how to get there, that is an asset that you can pull out. And that's really what that gave me, is the confidence to be able to go out there and do the things I wanted to do. So physical fitness brought that into it. And earlier in my career, I was out of balance on some of these things. So my kind of journey got me to this, where I was working 12-hour days. And then again, when I was 20, just fast forwarding up until I was about 25, 26, I was making about $500,000 a year. And I was like, I remember I was like, I was actually pretty hubris. I was kind of an ass, to be honest with you. And I remember I got this, and I was like, if I make this amount of money, I'm going to feel this way. Right? Like I thought I was going to feel like somehow I was going to like be sitting down in a chair, and like this feeling was going to come and take me away. But when I did it, I was like, this is it. I remember having this conversation with my mom, and my mom's like the complete opposite of money, right? She's just much more of relationships, which is amazing. And I remember telling her about this, and she was like, oh, that's good, and moved on. And I'm like, and at that moment, I realized that people just don't care. Right. And so I actually got depressed, and I went into this kind of, if money doesn't give you this happiness that I was searching for, then what does? And so then when I was about 11 years ago, I went on this whole spiritual journey, which then I really started putting balance in my life. So I've kind of lived all of these, living on the pendulum swings. And then really over the last 10 years, I've been really focusing on making sure that, here's the deal, Lou. Most people live their life like this. They have these 3 boxes that they have. The first box is, I'm going to learn, which is they go through education. And then once I get to that box, I'm going to stop learning and I'm going to go to work. And I'm going to work for 40 years and I'm going to stay there. Even though I hate my job, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to get through it. It's like you hear that, like, hey, only 10 more years and I can retire. And then people want to go play. And so I kind of at that moment decided, like, you know what, I'm going to integrate all of the wealth that I want. Wealth isn't a money term. I mean, money certainly helps that, but I'm going to integrate all of these components to my life every day. It doesn't mean I'm going to play for 8 hours, but I'm going to play every day. I'm going to learn every day. I'm going to grow every day. I'm going to commit myself every day. So then I used the last decade to really structure my life in a way that I can accomplish all the wealth that I have. So when my time is up, I know that every day I went out there and had the opportunity to play and to learn. And so part of that is how do you read a book a week, right? How do you exercise what you want to exercise with? How do you surround yourself by people that you want to surround yourself with? And then how do you also have a social life? And it's putting boundaries on all of these things and being the only way you can have freedom, which a lot of people in business, they get in the business to have freedom, that ultimately really can't get to it. The only way to have freedom is to live a disciplined life. Discipline will give you the freedom, right? The guy who just broke the marathon record about a month ago, he had this awesome quote, and it says, only the ones that are disciplined are free. Otherwise, you are a slave to your moods and your passions. I love that quote, and that's kind of how I brought in my life. So my morning starts between 3 and 4, depending on the volume that I train for. I compete competitively at Ironmans now, and then I want to get all my training done for my family. I have 3 kids under 6, 4, and 2, so I want to spend time with them every single morning. And then, which is a triathlon onto itself, right there, 6, 4, and 2. Yes, I mean, even more so than a triathlon, right? Yep. It's one of those things. And so and then I've scheduled my business life where I have about 400 people in our organization, a little bit more. And I figured that if I can't accomplish what I want to accomplish in my life, given the hours I'm willing to commit to these things, then I either have the wrong people or this isn't going to work for me. And I try to structure that through everybody in my life. I try to treat them as adults in our business. I'm looking on the business side, but I just got really purposeful on living every aspect of my life so that I'm reading, that I'm learning, that I'm playing. And again, it can be for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 3 hours, whatever that is. And that I'm growing through the business. I believe business is a conduit for our personal growth. There'd be no other reason why people go into business with unless they're willing to want to go out there and have the struggles to be able to grow through.
I like the mixing of the boxes together. And it's actually an interesting point. I think, I'll use this. I'm right before we spoke, I actually did a loop on the elliptical. I just did 30 minutes. And on the elliptical, I probably come up with 3 or 4 different ideas that relate into my business or a certain focus on what I need to get done. And many times while I'm doing work or working with a client, an idea or an inspiration will come for something that has nothing to do with work. I think as we overlap those worlds, we are really connecting them together. And it is really important because it's those activities that help us make each one of them better. Because if all we did was work, obviously we wouldn't be enjoying it and we wouldn't be getting the most out of it. So I totally get where you're going with this. And kudos to you for deploying the discipline that it takes to do that. And I know how much training triathlons take. And obviously you run a very successful company. You've got family life. I was about to ask, I hope sleep is involved in some of the things that you do.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Now that you've heard this amazing episode, you really need to subscribe and hear all our episodes. Head on over to thriveloud.com and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Thrive Loud. Thanks for listening.